Party is at war with itself. Florida and Michigan are in limbo. The superdelegates may end up deciding the nomination. The one man who has to sort all of this out is Party Chairman Howard Dean, and he joined us a little bit ago to talk about what he is going to do. So, Governor, Democrats are in a standoff right now. You've said you hope this thing is going to be decided by July 1, but we just heard Hillary Clinton say a few days ago that she's ready to fight all the way to the convention. There are a lot of people who are looking to you to resolve this. How are you going to resolve it?
Well, the voters are going to resolve it. We've got, I don't know, roughly 10 states and Puerto Rico to go over the next couple of months. And we've got 330 unpledged delegates out of the 800 that have not yet said who they're for. After we get to the end of the voting, and while the superdelegates continue, I presume, to come out and say who they're for, I think we're going to know who the nominee is. And I think I'd like to, there's no reason that the superdelegates have to say who they're for by July 1st, but I'd like them to think about the country and their party as they do. They're going to have to vote sooner or later. Sooner is better. We need to get this wrapped up by the 1st of July, and I think we can.
But what happens if they don't? I mean, you're asking them sort of out of the goodness of their heart or in the interest of the party to do this, but what are you going to do if they don't? I'm
asking them for the sake of their country to do this. We can't afford 4 more years of George Bush, which is what John McCain is offering us. He's offering us the same policy in Iraq as George Bush, stay there for 100 years, just like Korea, I think was the quote. He's supporting George Bush's tax cuts. His attitude towards the mortgage crisis is let them eat cake. He thought Bush's veto of the children's health care bill was a great idea. On all the issues that Americans really care about, John McCain is wrong. And the only thing that can make John McCain president of the United States is if we have a big fight at the convention and go off divided. And I'm determined not to let that happen. So trying to get to that point, what do you think the superdelegates should do, rather? Bottom line this for us. Should they be voting with their states or with their conscience? No, my job, Campbell, is to make sure that the losing candidate, who gets 49.8% of the vote, which is probably what they're going to get, feels they've been treated fairly. The rules say the superdelegates can do whatever they want. I support the rules. And because I'm going to support the rules right down all the way through this whole thing. I just want to be clear. You said 49 point whatever % of the vote. Are you saying that whoever wins the popular vote should be? No. What I'm saying is somebody's going to win this and somebody's going to lose it, and it's very, very close. And it's going to continue to be very, very close. I'm not here to tell the superdelegates what they have to do. That is their job, and the rules say they can do whatever they want. I'm just asking them to make their preferences known before the convention starts so that we have adequate time to prepare ourselves for the general election. Let's talk Florida and Michigan. Are you going to figure out a way to seat Florida and Michigan? So when you're up there on the podium looking out at that room on convention day, you're seeing those people there. I would very much like to have Florida and Michigan seated because of the circumstances under which they held their elections, essentially, which were not valid elections. They aren't going to be seated the same way that everybody else is. They can be seated in one of 2 ways. One, they can be seated by agreement between the 2 campaigns if there's no clear winner. Or 2, they'll be seated, I suspect, by whoever does win the nomination. Whoever wins the nomination will control the Credentials Committee, which will control the seating. And I strongly believe our nominee is going to want our Florida and Michigan in the hall. Under which rules, that will depend. The nominee will set the rules. But just to go back a little bit, I mean, the campaigns have made no progress so far in trying to work this out amongst themselves. If you wait until after there's a nominee, then that sort of defeats the purpose of having Florida and Michigan participate in the process of deciding who the nominee is going to be. I think that the campaigns haven't negotiated this yet because they're in the middle of a very difficult campaign, vying for the support of voters in Pennsylvania, Indiana, and North Carolina, and other states, and Puerto Rico, and places like that. So I don't think you can expect them to sit and negotiate this right this minute. I think they're going to want to find out where they are after the voting is over before they know what kind of a hand they have to play in any negotiations that might be taking place after the fact. You have said that this fighting between Obama and Senator Clinton has gotten personal, too personal in your view, and it's doing damage to the party. What do you mean by that? Well, I think there have been some things said in the past that have been a little on the personal side, but I also think both candidates have sort of a self-regulatory mechanism. The voters don't like that kind of stuff, and they let the candidates know about it, and I think the candidates have pulled back from that, and I think that's a good thing. And finally, there are those, and I think you know this, who've criticized you for not playing a stronger role in terms of your job as head of the Democratic Party and trying to get this resolved. I mean, you have taken a back seat, and as you just said, you know, your view is it's up to the campaigns to work this out. No, my view is that the voters will work it out, and I have to chuckle a little bit. The people who are complaining that I'm not taking a stronger role, when you drill down on that a little, as I have when they've called me, is I see what you mean is you'd like me to be a strong leader and adopt your point of view and then ram it through the DNC. I'm not going to do that for either side. There are going to be donors and supporters on both sides that are mad at me. I'm going to play this one by the rules, right? There's this clear set of rules. Everybody knew what those rules were a year and a half ago. Those are the rules that we're going to nominate the next president of the United States under, and we're not going to bend the rules for either side.